This conference will now be recorded.
All right. So today we'll talk about accounts payable. May write accounts payable. Okay. So we'll discuss about accounts payable without connecting this to SAP. Okay, let's talk in general about accounts payable so that you will understand the clear process of accounts payable irrespective of the application, let it be Oracle, Tally, SAP, or any other accounting platform. So when you talk about accounts payable, first thing, there are certain points that you have to remember. So let me list out those important points that we have to remember when it comes to accounts payable. First thing is your vendor, right? We must know about the vendor when you're talking about accounts payable. Now, who is a vendor when it comes to accounts payable?
Like supplier, sir.
Vendor is a supplier or the person who is selling the product or the service, right?
Yes.
In general, the person from whom we are taking or rendering the goods or services. Let's say my example is all about a service. Okay, my example is all about a service. I am rendering a service from a supplier. So I must know who is the supplier who is rendering the service to me. So when you're practicing or even when you take out an example for accounts payable, you must have the clear-cut information or clear-cut example. Only then you will connect your accounts payable process with your accounting application, including SAP. So I'm going to take an example of a service which I'm going to take from an external party or from a supplier. Let's say I am taking service of AC. AC servicing. Is this a product or a service? When you're getting your AC serviced, there is no physical product that you can see, right? They will come and repair the AC or do the necessary servicing that is required. So there is no physical product that you can see unless and until they replace any product inside the AC. Assume that there is no product replacement. It is only a basic servicing that is needed so that your AC functions properly. Now, you must know a vendor who does the AC servicing. Now, when you're talking about vendor, there are 2 points here in vendor. One is your name or the other one is your company. One is the name and the other one is company, which means your vendor can either be a name or a company. When it comes to a name, you mean an individual. When it comes to a company, you mean an organization. Now, there may be many servicemen who is not a company. Agree? Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Those who know the servicing of the AC, anybody can come and do the servicing. So, in short, a
Yes.
technician.
Yeah.
A
Yes.
technician need not be a company. As long as he is good at AC servicing, he can come and do the service for you. So, as a freelancing, or you may go to a proper AC servicing center, which may be a company. So you must be clear with whom you are getting your AC serviced. Assume that I am getting my AC serviced from a company, not from an individual. So what I will do, I may say that I simply say A to Z AC servicing center. Assume that this is the name of a company which is providing AC services. Now this A to Z AC servicing center becomes your vendor. Correct? Is this right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
This becomes your service provider or the vendor for you. Now, when you're
Yeah.
getting AC serviced from A to Z AC servicing center, you must know certain other criteria or certain other parameters. Now you are very clear that what you are going to do or what you are going to procure from the supplier. You have analyzed or you have identified the supplier A to Z services for your AC servicing. Now assume that there are two ACs that are to be serviced. You have two ACs to be serviced. Now, do you directly give AC to the vendor and then do this or get the servicing done and collect the bill later, or even before you give your AC or even before you finalize that vendor, you discuss or you negotiate about the pricing? What normally happens? Do you talk about or do you discuss about the charges that he is going to collect for your repair at the beginning or at the end?
No, sir. We'll discuss before about the charges.
Right? At the beginning itself, we normally do the same thing. Even if it is not related to a company, even if it is your personal device, or even if it is a product of your personal, you are not a company. If you go to any servicing center, you discuss about the pricing at the beginning only. Only when, if you feel that the price is decent enough or price is within your budget or you can accommodate that amount, you will proceed with the servicing. Otherwise, you will leave it. Right? That is how you are going to make a decision. The same thing
Yes, sir.
applies even in a company. So they will decide the pricing at the beginning itself. Let's say I'll write my price. Here, let me put price. I'll say that for each AC, he is going to charge 4,000 INR per AC. Clear? You're going to get charged 4,000 rupees per AC for servicing. Now, how many ACs are we getting serviced? How many ACs are we getting serviced? One or two?
Two, sir. Two.
Two,
Two
sir,
ACs
two.
we are getting serviced. So when you're getting two
Yeah.
ACs serviced, according to the contract or according to the agreement or the discussion with the vendor, you are being charged 4,000 rupees per AC. So he is supposed to
8,000.
bill how much? 8,000,
8,000.
right?
8,000.
So price per AC servicing is 4,000. So price
Yes, sir.
for two
Two
ACs
ACs.
will be 8,000. So it has to be very
8,000.
clear at the beginning itself.
Yes, yes.
And then you should also know the delivery. When you are going to get the service delivered, right? Delivery doesn't just mean the product delivery, it also means your service delivery. The moment your service is completed, that is termed as a delivery completed. Agree? If it is a product, the moment you receive the physical product, you call it as a delivery. If it is a service, the moment service is completed, your device or your AC is working fine, then they will tell that service is delivered successfully or servicing is completed successfully. Now, when he is going to complete it, it should not be the case that you
Yes.
will give AC today and he will take 1 month or 2 months, or he will complete the AC at his leisure time. Correct? You should have a tentative time. It takes 1 day, or it takes 6 hours, it takes 8 hours, it takes 2 days, 3 days, 10 days, 1 week. You need a stipulated timeline within which your AC is serviced and handed over to you. Assume that he is going to give you within 48 hours. Within
48
48
hours.
hours. So within 48 hours, your AC will get completed. So if you are giving it
Completed.
today, assume that tomorrow or day after tomorrow, you are going to
After
receive
tomorrow.
back your AC. So now
Yes, sir.
again, you will have to be clear, because it is all about your purchasing, it is all about your accounts payable. You have to be very clear at each point, at each stage. So how your AC is being serviced? Are you going to send your AC to the servicing center, or a technician is going to visit your place to do the servicing? What is going to happen is also to be tracked. Getting my point, right?
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yes, sir.
It is not just about
If
accounting entry that is being passed in the accounting system. So that is
yes.
basic thing which anybody knows. But when you're in a company, when you're working on accounts payable, there are different things that you have to know from the beginning, from the scratch of the process. So for that, you must know how your AC is being serviced. Is it sent out to the servicing center, or a service technician is going to visit your place to do the servicing? That also you have to be very clear, and you need to make a note of it.
Yes, sir.
And then you must know about payment method, how you are going to make the payment, whether you are going to give cash payment, or you are going to give bank payment, or you are going to give a check payment, or you are going to make a UPI payment. In general, everywhere nowadays you are being asked for how you are going to make payment, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You will find various options for the payment: cash payment, check payment, bank transfer, UPI. So similarly, you will have to decide on, discuss with the vendor how you are being paid. Assume that you are giving a check, you are giving a check to the vendor. Now you should also know something: payment terms. What is payment term?
Sir, is it regarding like cash discounts? If we pay within short span of time, they will offer cash discount.
Payment term is basically,
The terms and
is
conditions.
terms and conditions of your payment. Basically, from every vendor, you will receive some payment terms. Let's say a vendor says, whenever we deliver a product or a service, you will have to give us the payment within 30 days, or within 10 days, within 2 weeks, within 15 days, within 45 days, within 60 days, within 90 days. Depends on the vendor to vendor, depends on the nature of product and the nature of service. Assume for this payment term is immediate. What is immediate?
After completion of work, they going to uh, give the check immediate basis.
Right. So whenever we talk about payment term, there is something called invoice. So far,
Yeah,
did we write
invoice.
anywhere about invoice?
No, sir.
We have
No,
not
sir.
written anything about invoice till now. Payment terms are based on the invoice, right?
Yes.
So let
Yes.
me
Yes.
write something here. Invoice. What is invoice? Invoice is nothing but the bill, correct? Correct? Huh?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Invoice is nothing but the bill. Now, what happens with the bill? Assume that there are two cases here. We are talking about AC servicing. In AC servicing, we discussed there may be two possibilities. One is you are sending your AC to the service center. The other option is service technician is visiting your place to do the servicing. Now, if option number one is picked, let's say you have sent the AC to the service center, they will have to deliver it back to your place after servicing. Correct?
Yes,
Huh?
sir.
Yes, sir.
Now,
Yes.
after servicing, when they deliver back your ACs at your location or at your place, they might give you bill at that time. Along with the ACs, they might bring the bill or the invoice. Agree?
Yes, sir.
Right? They might give you the invoice at the time of delivering your AC. In case you will have your service technician visited your place and he completed AC servicing, and then he may not be able to generate the invoice, right? He may not be able to write an invoice, because if now whatever we are discussing from a company point of view, not a person point of view. When you're talking from a company point of view, everything has to be legal, correct? Right? He cannot
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yes,
simply
sir.
give an invoice on a bill book and then give you. That may not be a valid one. Right? So
Correct.
what he will do, he will go back to his company and then he will inform that at so and so location for so and so company, two AC, or for so and so customer, two ACs have been successfully serviced. and this is the quotation or the estimation that we have received or that we have given. So accordingly, they will prepare one invoice and send to the respective person in your company via email, or they might send somebody along with the invoice. Now, in either of the cases, you are receiving an invoice from your supplier.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now, when you receive an invoice, you may see that invoice contains a certain information. Now, what information your invoice contains? Because in your accounts payable, your invoice plays a major role, because your payments are all based on the invoice. What information your invoice is going to contain? What information will be there on the invoice?
Date,
Invoice is nothing
unit,
but the bill. Right? If you look at any bill, if you purchase anything on any shop where you get a system generated bill, not a manual written bill, assume a system generated bill. What information normally contains on the bill?
Vendor
date,
details, supplier details,
Vendor
receiver,
details and our supply
quantity
details.
MRP, quantity MRP,
Right. You get basically the supplier name, supplier address, purchase
In
date is
our
nothing but your
details.
invoice date, purchase transaction details, like what item you've purchased or what service you've purchased, what is the agreed rate, what is the discount, and what is the final price. Similarly, the number of products or the services that are given to you along with their final price, and the total value of the invoice or the total value of the bill with the due date. Correct? They might put due date
Yes,
as
sir.
immediate. They'll put due date as immediate because your payment terms are immediate for the service. Now, when you receive the invoice, are you supposed to release the payment or make the payment immediately? Now, ACs are serviced, invoice is received. Are we supposed to make payment directly to the vendor?
no
No,
sir.
right? There will be a
They,
process,
they have to verify.
right? There will be a
They
different
have to,
process. This process differs from company to company because each company may follow their own process of accounts payable. Now, this is basic overview about a transaction that we are going to discuss. So we are going to talk about two ACs being serviced at A to Z servicing center, 4,000 rupees for AC servicing, payable immediate, which means after successful completion of the servicing, you will have to release the payment via check. Now, assume that the actual process with supplier has already been completed. When we say that, we have got the ACs serviced and now the ACs are working fine. What happens first? What you will receive first? Invoice. Agree?
Yes, sir.
Once the ACs are serviced, you are going to receive the invoice. When you receive the invoice, what happens from the accounts payable point of view? What happens when you receive an invoice? You will have to first process the invoice,
Yes, sir.
right? You will have to first process the invoice. When you're talking about processing the invoice, you're talking about data entry. All this data entry is being done by end user in any accounting application. The person who records the transaction in any system is an end user. We're not talking about SAP anywhere, right? The person who records the invoices in any accounting application is an end user. SAP is also one of the accounting application. If a user is recording this invoice in SAP, he will be SAP end user. If a user is recording this invoice in Oracle, he is Oracle end user. If he is recording this in Tally, he will be a Tally end user. So in short, data entry is part of your end user. You must have heard something called BPOs, right?
Yes, sir.
Backend process, BPO, all this pertaining to your data entry alone, where the transactions are being recorded in the system. Now, when you are recording the invoice processing. Now, when an invoice is processed, there are certain guidelines. It is not that They will blindly do the data entry. Is that how an invoice is recorded in any company? Yes, no? They'll not blindly punch the data in the system, right? They will require the physical invoice copy or the scanned invoice copy from the supplier. Agree? Point number one.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. They need
Yes,
it.
And
sir.
that invoice copy has to be approved or authorized,
Yes. Yes, sir.
Yes.
right? There must be an invoice approval or authorization, which means you must need. Now, before I process, when I say invoice processing, it is all about accounting the liability. Accounting the liability. Why we are accounting the liability? Because you have purchased something and you are liable to pay to the supplier, correct?
Yes, sir.
So your liability is generated only when you create the invoice. So to create the invoice, to generate a liability, there has to be a proper verification, proper approval. Now, what that approval, what that verification happens? So in the backend, before the invoice is given to the data entry team or accounts payable team, it has to be validated, stating to. Now this invoice is all about AC servicing. So somebody will have to validate that ACs are serviced. Now ACs are working fine. This invoice is valid. And when you put this invoice is valid and you're generating an accounting liability, anything in the accounting is updated with what? What I need to record in accounting to update something, any account balance to generate a liability or to generate an income, expense, asset. What I need to write, what I need to debit, what I need to credit. What is your debit credit combination
Entry.
General
called?
entry. General entry.
General entries.
Right. So you will have to pass a journal entry. This also called as, everybody would have heard this called pass a JE, right? Anybody heard pass a JE?
Yes, sir.
In fact, this is not
General
JE. This
entry.
is basically JV,
JV. Yeah.
journal voucher.
Journal voucher.
Right? We assume it as journal entry, but this is actually a journal voucher, JV. Now you'll have to pass a JV or you'll have to pass a journal entry. To pass a journal entry, you must know where to debit, you must know where to credit. Agree? Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Now, the person who is working in accounts payable is an end user. Clear with this?
Sir, clear.
Person who is
Yes,
working
sir.
in accounts payable
Yes,
is an end
yes.
user who is going to record this liability. Now, when you're learning SAP FICO, are you going to work as an end user? Are you going to
No,
work
sir.
as an end user?
No, sir. As a
You're not going
consultant.
to work as an end user. You're going to work as a consultant. When you're not an end user, your focus is not on the data entry. You're not supposed to get expert in the data entry. In short, you must know how a data entry made in SAP, and to do this data entry, what are the prerequisites from the SAP? What needs to be done from the SAP side so that an end user can record the transaction without any problem, without any issues. For that, you must know the complete process of accounts payable out of SAP, which means business process. And then to bring this into SAP, what are the prerequisites? And based on this prerequisite, how you are going to record the transaction in the system. Once the transaction is posted, how you are going to validate or verify the transaction from the system. For that, you must follow a certain sequence. Only then you will understand from the business point of view. Otherwise, you will end up knowing only the technical accounts payable, which is not going to help you either in the interview or in the actual project or in the process. Getting my point, right? When somebody is talking about accounts payable, you must understand the business point of view the accounts payable, not SAP point of view accounts payable. There is a huge difference between these two,
Yes, sir.
right? So when I pass a journal entry or when I pass a journal voucher as an end user, what will be my role? I am supposed to record invoices in the system. Now, any end user will have a target based work. When I say target based work, if I'm an end user in accounts payable, if my role is to create invoices, I may have to record maybe 100 invoices per day, 150 invoices per day, 200 invoices per day, depending on the nature of invoices, depending on the accounting application. Clear?
Yes,
Because you
sir.
will have a clear cut time frame based on the accounting application. Let's say if you take SAP, let's say each invoice takes 5 minutes to process. Assume that each invoice takes 5 minutes to process. So in 1 hour, how many invoices should ideally be processed? If one invoice takes 5 minutes, in 1 hour, how many invoices will be processed?
12.
Well, sir.
12.
All invoices.
So each invoice takes 5 minutes, which means it is not just the data entry that you're doing, right? You have to validate, verify. There is a basic criteria verification before you punch the data in system. Assume that it takes 5 minutes for each invoice. So 1 hour, end user will have a target of 12 invoices, correct? Agree?
Yes, sir.
Now, how many hours an end user is going to work in a company per day?
8 or 9 hours.
8 hours. Assume that 8 hours. So in 8 hours, how many invoices a user is supposed to process?
96.
96. So not every invoice takes 5 minutes, right? So this 5 minute is an average time. Agree? It's not that
Yes,
exactly
sir.
it will take 5 minutes. One invoice may take only 2 minutes. One invoice take 1 hour also, depending on the issue that you are facing with or depending on the query that you have on the invoice. So on an average, let's say every user will have to pass 100 invoices per day. Now this will be their target. Agree? If you are in accounts payable and your work is to process the invoices, you will have to record 100 invoices a day. This becomes your target. Now when you have a target, how you are going to work in accounts payable as an end user? So you are going to work target based? Yes, no?
No,
What
sir.
runs in your mind all the time?
Yes, sir.
Is that so? Have to complete 100 invoices. That becomes your minimum target, without which your performance will be affected. They'll say that you're not performing up to the mark. They might tell that you're weak or your typing skills are not good, your understanding level is not good, your experience is not good. They may tell different reasons for an end user. Now at the end of the day, each user will have to record 100 transactions in the accounts payable invoice processing. Now for this to happen, end user will have to know the process clearly. Agree? Yes, no? If I am
Yes,
not
sir.
clear with the process, is it possible to record 100 invoices per day?
No, no, sir.
Sir.
Even if I process 100 invoices per day, are you concerned about accuracy or not? Data accuracy or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So data accuracy also matters, which means if I am recording 100 invoices, if there are so many mistakes, like I have put wrong amount, wrong date, wrong supplier, wrong GL account, wrong profit center, wrong cost center, anything can be wrong. Now, incorrect things will lead to incorrect liability. right? Because accounts payable
Yes.
is where you're actually making the payment, you're issuing the payment. So wherever you're
Yes.
issuing the payment, companies are actually very strict. The processes, policies are very strict. When there is a payment from company's side, you're making the payment, you're not receiving the payment, right?
Yes. Yes.
If something goes wrong, if you have given a duplicate payment, if you have given payment to a wrong supplier, wrong amount, or anything, may lead or may put an end user in trouble. Now, user or the client or your business may tell that system is not working properly. Point valid. System is
Yes,
not
sir.
working properly, or we are not told about this before, or we are not trained on this before, we do not have any document on this. They might come up stating any point. Now who will have to take that? An end user or a consultant? Somebody says, assume that there is an issue in the accounts payable. What end user will do? He will simply tell that this is the problem that we are facing while processing this invoice. Who will have to rectify or resolve that problem? End user or a consultant?
Consultant.
Consultant only, sir.
Now how consultant will resolve it? Only when the consultant understands the problem issue, or based on the error message that he is getting. What needs to be the first point before you solve any problem in accounts payable? You need to understand what the user is doing.
Yes,
Correct?
sir. Yeah.
Sometimes a user may be doing something in a different way or in a wrong way, or he is trying to do something which is not applicable for them or which is not configured for them. Because everybody knows, now let's talk about SAP. Everybody knows SAP is not ready to use application. Agree?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
SAP is not a ready to use application. SAP works as per your configuration or as per your customization.
Correct.
If I have configured scenario number 1, scenario number 2, scenario number 3, assume that there are 3 scenarios in my company for an invoice processing. Now, these 3 scenarios are configured in SAP, and these 3 scenarios will work without any problem in the system. Is there any rule that throughout the company's lifetime only these 3 scenarios will be there and no new scenario is introduced, or
No,
new
sir. New
scenarios
scenarios
will come up?
will come, sir.
Right? New scenarios will come up. Right? New scenarios will definitely come up. Now, when there is a scenario number 4, this scenario number 4 may not be configured in the system. When there is no configuration, when there is no setup for a new scenario in the system, it will not accept that. Even if it is accepting that a transaction, it may represent in a different way or in an incorrect way, because that is not properly mapped or that is not properly configured or added in the system. If that is the reason, end user will definitely face the problem, because end user, he will never understand, end user will never know what kind of new scenario is this, because he is going to work based on the target, right? He is going to complete 100 invoices per day. He will not have that much time to investigate, to look into each transaction. Agree? Because he will have to complete his target. And most of the times when the data entry is happening, not all the companies will have the same company user processing the invoice. Majority of the companies will have outsourced employees for the data entry. Everybody is aware of this, right? That is where you get this BPOs or external parties. Let's say that there is a top company in US, and all the US company related invoices may be processed in a company, in a BPO company in Hyderabad or in Bangalore, Mumbai, Chennai, Pune. Yes, no?
Yes, sir.
That is how your BPC, not your BPO works.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
you are
correct.
working for a company which is a service oriented company. That company is rendering their services to a company who is operating in US. What they will do, they will give you all the invoices, all their accounts payable invoices, scanned copies to this company. And in this company, whoever the employees are there who is working in accounts payable will have to look at those invoices and punch those invoices in the accounting application, right? So the user who is processing the invoice is not an employee of the actual company who purchased that transaction. Agree?
Yes, sir. Agree.
Now, there may be different cases when it comes to an actual business process. In this case, what happens, the user may not be aware what is the business process or what is the mechanism that is followed in that company. What he is told is he just has to record the transactions that he received. Invoice is approved, GL account number is given, supplier code is given, amount, everything is clear. But when he is recording the transaction, something is not correct. Maybe this may be scenario number 4, which is not mapped in SAP. He will have to raise it with somebody to look into this problem, as he is unable to record the invoice properly. Now, these things will come to an SAP consultant who will have to understand that scenario number 4. Agree? Yes, no? As a consultant, you will receive a problem that this invoice we are unable to process in the system. Now, with that scenario, will there be only one invoice or there may be multiple invoices? There will be multiple invoices, right?
Yeah,
Now,
multiple
all the
invoices, sir.
invoices
Yes.
are processed by one user or multiple users?
Multiple end users.
Multiple users.
There will be multiple users. Now, a company
Yes.
operates only in one region or multiple regions?
Multiple regions.
Right? So company may be operating in multiple regions. Company may be there in US, they may have a branch in Singapore, US, Dubai, India, any other country. So everywhere this scenario will remain constant. So today this issue is reported by one user. Tomorrow maybe few more users will come up stating that this invoice is not coming up properly. Or even if it is considering, it may consider incorrectly. Some user may report that, okay, this is not correct, I will report this. Some user may not report, he will save as it is. There is an incorrect transaction recorded. Agree?
Yes, sir.
Right? All these kind of things will be analyzed during the accounts payable month end. That is where they do something called reconciliation. During the reconciliation, all these kind of problems will come up. Now, all these problems are again reported to the SAP consultant, stating that these are all the problems or these are all the reconciliation findings that we have done. Kindly give a solution to resolve all this, because they have to account all this in the same month, because otherwise they will have to do an accruals, which they do not want to do. If they have to do the accrual, they have to give a reason why they are unable to account these invoices in the current month and why they have to accrue it for the future month posting. Right? So these are basically not recommended processes, before which they will approach SAP team, push them for the quick or earlier closure. Now, how SAP team will be able to resolve this? Only when they understand the business process. Agree? Not when they know how to do the accounts payable in SAP. Only when you know what is their business process, you can resolve their problem. Now, for that to happen, first you should understand, you should have basic understanding about accounts payable from a process point of view, not from the system point of view. Because system point of view, accounts payable is very simple, very basic. Anybody can do it, because that's a data entry. If you sit and do it for 2-3 times, you will understand, okay, why these errors are coming, what needs to be inputted at each field. Now, once you get the business process, you will have to map that in the system and do the relevant configuration, do the proper testing, and make it live in the production system. Now, for all this to happen, as a consultant, you are not supposed to hold only the knowledge of a technical SAP accounts payable, but also and most important, actual business process of accounts payable. If we are not clear with this, if somebody is asking you to explain the accounts payable even in your interviews, you will not be able to convince the other person. In short, the interviewer may not get convinced with your accounts payable explanation because you are explaining from SAP point of view and the other person is not expecting the accounts payable from SAP point of view. It is very clear. If I am taking your interview on accounts payable, I do not want to know the transaction code of vendor creation, transaction code of invoice creation, transaction code of credit memo creation, transaction code of vendor report, transaction code of various other reports in SAP. So instead, what I want to see what is your level of understanding on accounts payable. There will be different cases, different scenarios, business processes in accounts payable. How many of them you are aware of? And if there is a problem in accounts payable, how you are going to react to those problems? If there is an accounts payable requirement for a client who is not using an SAP currently, how you are going to map accounts payable to them? And what is the process of accounts payable in your SAP, both from the ECC point of view and from the S4HANA point of view? What are the changes in the accounts payable from ECC to S4HANA? So various points is what you have to be prepared of when it comes to accounts payable if you are preparing it for an interview point of view. Because the way you understand the accounts payable, the way you list out the accounts payable is always depends on the purpose that you are looking for. If the only purpose is to know accounts payable, how it works in SAP, it is straightforward. It is straightforward. That is only to give you an awareness of accounts payable in SAP. But our intention is to get a job in SAP for which accounts payable is one of the criteria. Right? Nobody is going to give you an SAP consultant job just because you know accounts payable. Agree with me? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right? There is a big list. Out of that big list, accounts payable is one point. Right? You are not an end user and you're not supposed to talk like an end user in the interview. Not going to take more time only to explain the accounts payable process in the interview. The way you are explaining gives an impression to the interviewer whether you are from the consulting background or you are from the end user background or you are from the training batch. So that difference is something that you have to create. So it is all with your way of explanation. That comes only when you have the process understanding clearly. Getting my point, right? So you have to be very clear with the
Yes,
process.
sir.
Only then the way you are explaining it to the other person differs. Now, when you are explaining the process, make sure you are always taking your own examples. Be in a position to take your own example and then try to explain your example so that you will never go wrong. Even if somebody is giving you a cross question from your example, you can still explain as per your understanding because this example is something that you are taking from your own understanding. So you can at least let the other person know that you are aware of the process. You are trying to convince him with your explanation. That comes only when you take your own example. Otherwise, at one point of time, you will get caught that you are unable to explain it. You are getting confused. You are speechless. Okay. Now, if you look at this as an end user, I have 100 invoice target. Literally, as an end user, it is difficult for me to complete this task accurately. Correct?
Sir.
Now, I will say that
Yes,
every
sir.
time that it is taking a lot of time, so we want to improve the productivity. We want to improve the productivity. We want to make sure invoices are processed on time, errors are reduced, for which we need your advice, or for which we need you to give a solution to streamline the accounts payable process or to speed up the accounts payable process. to reduce the data lag. Now, as a consultant, if you are put on this kind of work, what will you do? Accounts payable is already implemented. They are already using accounts payable. Vendors they are creating, invoices they are creating, payments they are making. But they are not happy with it. They want you to remap the accounts payable or resolve the existing problems in the accounts payable. Now, is your knowledge of accounts payable configuration and accounts payable data entry going to help there, or the business understanding along with SAP process is going to help? Which way is going to help you? Only the accounts payable SAP point of view knowledge, or
Business
the
process.
process from the
Business,
business?
sir. Business process and SAP both will be
Correct.
helpful.
You must need business process along with SAP process. That is when you are going to understand the problem. Otherwise, you're not going to understand the problem because you're not seeing it completely. To see it completely,
Yes.
you must look at the transaction from the business point of view. You must look at the transaction from SAP point of view. If the transaction is okay from the business point of view and not okay from the SAP point of view, because there may be a different criteria from business, there may be a different criteria from SAP. These two may not be equal every time, because business process you cannot change as you want. Correct? Agree?
Yes, sir.
They may tell that we have been running the business from past 20 years, from past 30 years, past 5 years, 10 years. We will not change the process. You change the processing system. They will simply tell. So if they are using the same process successfully without any issues from the last 10 years, why the problem is coming in SAP? Are they using SAP from last 10 years? No, they may be using SAP from last 1 year. Then from when this problem is coming? In which case the problem is coming? So you will have to go to the detailed and list out all your analysis. That is where you are going to understand the exact problem, and based on that problem identification, you are going to work on this solution. If you are not able to identify the problem, you will never be able to provide a solution. So majoritarily what happens, we do not try to understand the problem, we do not try to find out the actual problem, and then we try to provide solutions, trial and error. So by looking at the error, by looking at something, we assume that okay, this may be because of this, and you try to do some changes. And if it works out, you feel that okay, this is working now. That may be a temporary solution. And the similar problem may come up again after some time, or maybe the next month. So companies or the clients, businesses do not want temporary solutions. Instead, they want permanent solution, for which you have to do a root cause analysis. You will have to identify the actual problem, why these issues are coming up, and then fix that problem. So for that to happen, you must have sufficient business process understanding. Otherwise, it is not possible at all. You may get job, you may become a consultant, you will get all the issues sorted out which are reported to you, but still you will not be a successful consultant because you are missing that business process understanding. You are solving all the problems from the technical point of view, from the SAP point of view, not from the business point of view. There's a huge difference between these two, right? So try to understand it from the business point of view, so that even when you're explaining it to the other person will get convinced very easily. Even if you do not use SAP terminology, even if you do not use SAP configuration, even if you do not use SAP transaction codes, still the other person will get connected to you, convinced with your explanation, and then he will say that you are the right person for it. It all matters from your business process explanation, not from the SAP process explanation. Because for SAP process explanation, you will have clear-cut documentation, you will have clear-cut transaction codes, you will have clear-cut user manuals. Agree? Yes, no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right? To create a vendor, to create an invoice, to do anything, to do any configuration, you have ready-made documentation. But In what case you will have to use it, in what case you will have to follow that is possible, is understood only when you are clear with the business process. So my focus on you in any interview depends on how good you are at understanding a business process, not how expert you are on SAP configuration. Nobody wants it. Everybody knows it's a copy paste work. You will have a document with step-by-step screenshot. Go to this transaction, go to this IMG path, click on this, add a new entry, put this, save it, add it in a TR. For any transaction, go to this T code and each field giving an explanation, put date here, put company code here, put amount here, posting key here, vendor here, save it, simulate it. Anybody can do it. There's nothing new that you are doing with that. Agree?
Yeah, valid point, Ajay. Yeah, correct.
Right? So when you know this is the reality that is checked in an interview, or this is the reality that is expected from you everywhere, not just as an end user, not just as a consultant, wherever you go as any designation, you are being judged, you are being evaluated based on these criteria. As you are getting more experience, you are supposed to talk from the business point of view only, because the data entry is done at the lower level. Data entry is always done at the lower level. Who is capable enough to look at a document and do it in the system? Basically, if a fresher with basic SAP operating is sufficient for me. Agree? The way you post an invoice, the way you post 100 invoices, is it same or different?
Different, sir.
Huh? From the technical system point of view, is the screen going to change for 100 invoices? You get 100 different screens?
No, same.
No, sir.
Same
Same.
screen, right? It is just that you are changing the vendor, you are changing the GL account, you are changing the amount, you are changing the date, you are changing the narration, that's it. But process is not changed, right?
Yes.
That is what a process. Because every company works based on a process. Throughout the company, the process remains constant. Let it be any supplier, this is what our process. This is what our corporate policy, or this is what our business policy. Irrespective of the vendor, the same thing is given. Now, for this to happen, you have to see it from a different angle. You have to see it from a different point. It is not that you're looking at accounts payable from SAP point of view and you're marking yourself as, yes, I have done accounts payable, I am good at accounts payable. But the way accounts payable expected from you in an interview or in a company or in a project is different. There you will feel that whatever the accounts payable knowledge I have is not helping me. That doesn't mean your accounts payable knowledge is not valid. It is valid, but it is not helpful. There's a huge difference, right? If your knowledge is not helpful when you're in a project, when you're in an interview, when you're talking to somebody, are you going to get good impression there?
No.
No, right? You're talking accounts payable, yes, valid. You're talking about all the transactions, configuration, everything is correct, but I am not convinced. That is not my problem, right? I am not convinced doesn't all the time mean that I am with a different mindset. Because when you're seeking a job, when you're seeking somebody's attention, it is your responsibility to explain it in a different way so that the other person is convinced and connected with you. That is something that you have to prove from your side. Agree? For that to happen, the way you explain, the way you understand, the way you see the process should be different from the others. Okay, now what I'll do for this, I'll simply put one transaction, because when we do it in the SAP, we are going to do the same thing exactly as we're writing in the Excel sheets. Now, this we have seen from the end user point of view. Now, from the business point of view, I would have received one invoice. from my invoice may be like A to Z service center, and it may have date here. Agree?
Yes, sir.
And it may have the customer as Maruti
Maruti Suzuki.
Suzuki, and it may have that AC service to quantity 4,000, and it may have 8,000, correct? And it may also have probably GST 18%, right? Assume that this is how I have received my invoice. Just a draft. This is how I would have received my invoice. Normally, is this how you get an invoice from any supplier? Yes, no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now, when you look at this invoice from the business point of view, before you record this in the system, what you will have to do is point number one. You will have to verify vendor. When I say verify vendor or validate vendor, I have to see from whom or from which supplier I received this invoice. What is the supplier name?
A to
A to
Z.
Z service.
A to Z
A
service
to Z.
center.
So first I have to map or I have to find out the supplier code or vendor code from the system, because without master data you have already seen the sequence, right? First thing is your config, second thing is your master data, third one is what?
Transaction data.
Last one is your report.
Reports.
This is how you work in SAP, or this is how SAP works. So let us not relate this sequence with any other application. Let us link this only with SAP, because we are connected to SAP. Now, assume that config is already there. To do this, I have to verify my master data. Master data here is your vendor. I need to check my vendor list. What is the supplier code for A to Z service center? Now, there is any rule that there should be only one vendor with A to Z service in India, or there may be multiple?
It will be
Maybe
multiple,
multiple.
sir.
There may be multiple, right? So somebody may have A to Z service center, somebody may have A to Z AC service center, somebody may have A to Z AC service point, correct? As an end user, there may be a mistake. They might only check A to Z and they will select, okay, this is the vendor code for A to Z. But ideally, you are supposed to validate the full name of the supplier along with the address. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
I should always verify the vendor based on the full name and the address. So once I verify my vendor, I will get my vendor code from the system. Assume that this is the vendor code. Right? Assume that this is my vendor code from the system. Point number two, I should know the GL where I have to post this. Now this is all about AC servicing, correct? Yes, no? This invoice is all
Yes, sir.
about AC servicing. Now
AC
what is the
service.
GL account for AC servicing? I must know the GL code for AC servicing. You may not find the GL account with AC service. Agree? You may have, you may not have. Some client may create AC servicing expense account. Some client may not create it. So where this cost has to go? There must be a GL account. Let's say something, I'll give like this GL account. It is not that when you're processing an invoice, you can select any vendor account, you can select any GL account. That is not correct. And which department or which product should receive this cost? In short, what should be your cost center? What should be your profit center? That you must know. It's not that any one profit center you will give, any one cost center you will give, which normally we do while practicing. That is not the case when a transaction is recorded in a real environment. So when you do your first transaction in your accounts payable, your invoice processing, let this be the exactly the same case how it will be reported or how it will be processed in an actual company, right? So let us not post an invoice randomly for any vendor account, for any name, for any amount, for any cost center, any profit center. It should not be that way. So you must have a clear-cut transaction drafted in an Excel sheet, including the amount, including the date, name, everything, and then put the same thing in the SAP system. That is where you are going to create the proper transaction. Right? Once your master data is in place, record the transaction with right attributes, right parameters. Once you have that, you will have to pull the report. If my transaction is incorrect, can I get correct report? Is it
No, sir.
possible for me to get correct report or analyze a report with incorrect transactions? No, right? When you're talking about a report, dates play a major role. So where actually the dates are given in master data or in transaction data?
Transaction data, sir. Transaction.
Dates are given in transaction data. If I give incorrect date in my transaction data, I cannot pull the report properly, because reports are always based on the date. I wanted to report for this month. I wanted to know how many invoices are processed in this month. My invoice must be processed in current month so that I can see the actual transaction in current month. While posting, if period is not open, it is only a practice system, I will post in any other month which is open, you're doing a mistake. Your practice is not correct. When your practice is not correct, everything else will be incorrect, no matter what. You may be executing all the transactions correctly in the system, but they are all useless. They are not going to help you anywhere, because you are blindly posting a transaction in a period which is open instead of the period where it should actually be posted. So why we are doing that? Because we do not have any clue. We are not clear with the scenario that we are planning to execute in the system while practicing. So whatever the period is open, you are simply changing the dates and posting. That is fine if you are clear with the process. If you are clear with what you are doing, that is fine, you can ignore it. But when you are not clear with the process, when you are at the initial stage, that is strictly not recommended, right? If your transaction is supposed to take place with today's date, it must be recorded with the today's date. If period is not open, open the period. Even after opening the period, if system is not allowing you to do the transaction, don't ignore it, because you're not practicing to become an end user, you're practicing to become a consultant. If the issues are coming, you must know why each problem is coming, what things are missed out, and how do you fix those problems. That is what we are supposed to know, that is what we are supposed to learn. And all this comes with your mistakes only. If there is no mistake, there is no point that you are learning SAP. The more errors, the more mistakes you will do, the more you are going to learn. Clear? Tomorrow in the interview, you are questioned about the issues that you are faced. You, in the sense, they will ask you as a consultant what kind of issues you have resolved. Who will face the issue? End user?
End user will face the issue.
End user or the client or the user? Business. What
Yes,
they
sir.
will do? They will do these 3 points. They will do these 3 points. Master data creation time, they may face some issue. What kind of issues are faced during master data? You must know what kind of issues are possible while creating a master data. Transaction data, what kind of issues will come during the transaction data? Reports, what kind of issues are possible for reports? If you only know how to create a master data, if you only know how to create a transaction data, if you only know how to pull a report, it is not going to help us. That is only giving you a knowledge, a basic awareness of accounts payable process. But when you are projecting yourself as a consultant, you are supposed to know something beyond that. This is just a basic stuff for a consultant, the basic stuff, level 1. You're supposed to be at level 3, 4, or 5. So nobody even cares whether you're aware of how a master data is created. Nobody is going to ask you this. Right? So you must pay attention at each stage what we are doing. If you're creating a vendor master data, be very clear how your vendor master data is created, what information is needed, how a vendor is created. So it is not that just like that you can create a vendor anything as you practice, but in a real environment, the vendor is created in a different way. It is not so easy that just like that you create a vendor. It has to undergo certain approvals before you create a new supplier or new vendor in the system. There will be a new application form. If you want to go to a bank, open a bank account, just like that you walk into the bank, they'll give you the application. Is that how you get a bank account? Or admission in anywhere?
No, sir.
How
No.
do you get it? Or if there is no manual intervention, let's say you want to create a Gmail account. Just like that you get a Gmail account.
No, sir. No.
So the information has to be given to Gmail before they give you an account.
Yes, sir. Yes.
And the information you are giving is validated or not.
Yes, sir. Validated.
Same thing happens even in a company. The way you create a Gmail account, the way you create a bank account, the way you create any other account, the way you sign up. Similar way you are going to sign up a vendor. It is not a just blind process that you do a sign up anywhere. The same process of sign up is applicable even in SAP for a vendor. The information that is needed to create a supplier, you must be aware of. If I ask you in the interview to create a vendor master, what are the prerequisites? What is the key information from vendor master data to do a successful transaction for a particular vendor? What will you tell? Now, if I start telling name, address, country, state, postal code, you're convinced?
No, sir. No.
No, right? You're not convinced if I tell to create a vendor, name is required, search term is required, postal code is required, street is required, address is required. You're not convinced. Why? You're not convinced, that's it. Why means there may not be any reason. I feel that you're not clear or you did not understand what I want. Right? I am not asking you to know from your explanation. Agree? Agree with me?
Yes,
In
sir.
an
Yes, sir.
interview, if I'm asking you to tell me the key points which are required for a vendor master data creation, you are not going to explain as you're going to train or as you're going to teach vendor master creation to a person. Talk at a high level where each point that you are explaining, each point that you are telling to the other person is meaningful, is valid, is convincing enough. For that to happen, you have to see the vendor master creation in a different way. You have to understand it in a different way. You have to see it from the business point of view. Only then your answer is effective. Otherwise, your answer is some kind of not effective or not convincing enough. Right? Now, all this time, what we have done, we were talking about vendor, 2 AC servicings, 4,000 per AC, and all of a sudden when we receive the invoice, surprisingly you will get a tax GST. Agree?
Yes, sir.
Now surprisingly we are getting GST. Now 8,000 has become 9,440. Now can you say no, I'll not pay 1440?
No, we can't
You
say like
cannot
that.
say it, right? You cannot say that. You will have to pay 9,440 to the supplier, including 1,440 as tax. Now how tax will come? So we cannot say taxation is not part of accounts payable, right? Agree? Taxation may be a separate point, taxation may be a separate topic, but taxation is applicable on your payable and receivable for suppliers and your customers. Agree? Now how taxes are treated in SAP, how taxes are treated in your accounts payable is again another point that you have to take. To understand the taxation, is this mandatory or not? Can I test taxation without invoice?
No, sir.
No, sir. No.
No. So if I want to learn taxation, accounts payable is a prerequisite. Agree?
Yes,
I
sir.
must know accounts payable before I know taxation. Because just like that, I cannot create a tax code, I cannot post some entry and then I'll see taxes coming properly. Right? So I may say that one invoice, there may be one more thing, miscellaneous item, maybe one quantity, 100 rupees, it may be 100, and still my tax is 9,540, and this is not included in the taxation, correct? My tax is calculated only on 8,000. 100 is not part of my tax. How will I account these kind of things? I have to consider only selected items for taxation. Certain items are not taxable. Not every product is taxed at same rate. Agree? Yes, no?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Not every product is taxed at same rate. That does not mean if you purchase 5 items which are liable for tax at 5 different rates, should not end up giving 5 invoices. Am I right? I buy 5 items. One item may be 18% GST, another item may be 12% GST, another may be 5% GST, one more may be 0 GST, one more may be 24% GST. Do you get one bill or do you get 5 bills?
One bill, sir. One bill.
You should get one bill with proper tax breakup. Correct? Huh?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes, sir.
How that should happen in system? What is needed for it? For that to test, again you need to come back to the basics of accounts payable, create a customer or create a vendor, create a purchase invoice, capture the tax and verify it. While doing that process, your focus should only be on the taxation part, not on the accounts payable part, because by then you must be an expert in accounts payable. Okay, you're getting my
Yes, sir.
point,
Yes,
right?
sir.
So for you to do
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
anything going forward, any topic, your accounts payable becomes a default topic for you to be an expert. You should not be a beginner in accounts payable basics like business process of accounts payable, customer, vendor, master data creation, all the transactions and all reports and all. You must be very good at. There's no other option for it. If you're not good at it, going forward, any topic that is there, you are not going to understand because there is a dependency. From now on, every topic has a dependency with the other topic. So if you do not have the comment on that dependent topic, you are not going to learn this topic because the dependent thing you are not clear with. Unless and until you are clear with that dependent topic, you are not going to be clear with the current topic. So now it will be tricky from now on. The way you are going to approach from now on should be different. It is not topic to topic. You have to accumulate everything and then carry forward. That is where you are going to understand the business process and the SAP process. Otherwise, you are going to know it topic by topic. Nobody will talk to you in any interview, in any company, anytime based on the topic. It is always based on the business requirement. Clear? Which means in my interview of 30 minutes, I may ask you anything in SAP people. Is that valid?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Valid.
It's not that I am going to ask you only from payable, only from receivable, only from tax, only from GL. Never happens. Maybe possible for a fresher. We are not freshers. Right? Maybe possible for a fresher, but we are not freshers. So I might ask anything from FICO, maybe from GL, AP, AR, or clubbed questions. My question contains GL, AP, AR, many modules, but still you must understand and respond on time. That is possible only when you understand SAP and business process collectively and you are getting what I'm asking. If that is missing, your answers are irrelevant or your answers are inappropriate. So you have to overcome all these points, and this is the starting stage for that. And if you practice thoroughly, if you practice properly from now on, none of these confusions will come to you. Now, this is the beginning stage where you have to mold your training, mold your practice to a different method, to a different way. Clear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Clear.
Now, okay, we'll stop this here today, and this continuation we'll do in the tomorrow's session. So what happens after this amount, invoice, accounting entry, how this accounting entry will get processed, how payment is processed, all this continuation we will complete in the tomorrow's session. Okay.
Okay.
Let me stop this recording. Chandu, see if you are able to stop the recording, if you have logged into this.
Okay, sir. Let me see. I stopped, sir.
Got stopped now?
Yes.
Okay.
No, I think still
No.
on recording.
Is it for me? It is asking like start your recording after I click the option on stop.
Okay, then fine. All right then. So we'll continue the session tomorrow at 8 p.m. Okay, from next week
Sure.
we'll connect in the morning as well. So I'll confirm the timing this weekend. So from next week we are going to connect both in the morning and in the evening.
Sure, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Any other
Yes, sir.
questions, anyone? Before we close?
Sajay?
Yeah.
No, sir.
Yeah, good evening. Srinivasan speaking.
Yes, you know.
Yeah, I joined today actually. You already started the class already, all your classes also, or This I joined today only actually. Just I want to see how it is the class and all. The class is already started. Just I like to know.
No, from next week, we'll start from the beginning in the morning sessions.
Okay, from the beginning.
Okay, now whatever we are doing from today is exclusively your real time and the interview point of view. Basics we have already completed. These basics again I'll start in the morning.
Oh, okay. You're going to start again.
Today
Okay.
is counted as the session 1 for your interview preparation.
Oh, okay. Okay, got
Yeah.
it. Okay, okay. So the classes will be different timings. How it is? Morning and evening, or
Evening it will be fixed at 8 p.m.
okay. Indian
Okay,
time.
at Indian time 8 p.m.
Okay.
And morning it will be around between 7:30 or 8 a.m.
Oh, 7:30. Oh, between
No,
7:30.
it will begin between 7:30 and 8.
Okay. India. And that also AST.
IST, yes.
Okay. 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 So you will cover both this FICO and with the HANA changes also, no?
Right.
Okay. Okay. So that's it. Because basically I'm a background of accounting, so just I want to
No, we'll
interested.
cover both
Yeah.
ECC and S4 HANA along
Okay.
with the practical changes. So
Practical
where
change.
will
Okay. Okay. How about the access and all? I have to take it from the outside. How it is?
I'll provide the access.
We'll provide access. Okay. Okay.
Right.
So you mean that you will give some assignments and everything after the each mod
Yes.
something. Okay.
Right. So in that server, whatever the configuration we're doing,
Okay.
you will have access to this company code and you can verify your configuration. You will receive this Excel sheet that I'm updating now.
Okay.
Similarly, you can make your own example and then replicate in your company code.
Okay. 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 Got it. So how can I proceed with that, Mr. Ajay?
That I'll tell you offline, maybe one to one.
Okay, fine. Fine, Mr. Ajay.
Okay.
No problem.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
I like your approach, the way you teach.
Yeah. All right. So, any other questions?
Hi Ajay. What about the CO part? Will you teach CO too?
Yeah. CO is also covered.
Okay. Basically, I'm also from accounting background, so I need CO also.
CO will also be covered, but the prerequisite before you learn CO is FICO. Because
Yeah,
when you
yeah.
talk about a CO, you're talking about, or if somebody is talking about CO, they specifically mean two elements: product costing and COPA. So the
Yes.
exposure and expertise in FICO is required before you understand CO, because your product
Okay.
costing and your profitability analysis or COPA requires thorough understanding, thorough knowledge on FICO. FICO, when we say everything in FICO except product costing and COPA. In CO, cost element, cost center, profit center, internal order, activities. When you're
Okay.
good at this and you require the other module basic overview, like manufacturing basic overview, purchasing basic overview, sales basic overview. Only then it is possible for us to understand CO. The intention is to know CO, right?
Okay.
Not that you
Yes.
are aware of CO.
And it is not fully aware, but configuration part I am not aware of this.
Right. For that to happen, we have to replicate the scenarios in the system. So for us to replicate scenario, we need basic knowledge from different other modules. Only then we are able to understand, okay, what we're doing in the system from the CO point of view. Because majority of the activity comes out of a CO, basically from the PP side, MM side, and SD side. So what is
Yes.
happening there? Only when Only once you have a clear understanding or at least basic awareness what is happening in the PP side, what is happening in the MM side, what is happening in the SD side, it is possible for us to what is happening in CO side, what we have to do it, and how we have to deal that cost. So that is where many of the people will tell CO is tricky, because the way you learn accounts payable, now you are able to relate something from the accounts payable, though it's a first session for you from my side. But the
Yes.
same way is not possible for CO, because CO you will not understand, because I'll be talking the points which are nowhere related to CO. Because we have to connect different
Okay.
lines and then connect with the CO.
Okay.
Yeah, that is practically possible once we are thorough with the FICO module.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, Shruti.
Yes. Good evening, sir. I heard you at the time of your explaining result analysis error, right? Can you brief about that, please? Result analysis.
Result analysis normally comes during your PS module, project systems, basically.
Okay. So how
Okay.
it will be related to FI?
See, you
And
have planned, you have actuals. Before you execute any project, you have planned data and you will also have the actual data.
okay.
Right? So you have to analyze the result. So there will be a transaction for you to execute on a month-end basis, on a monthly basis. When you do that, it will tell you what is the result analysis for this, like what is the actual revenue that is generated from your project for the current month.
Okay. I got it. Okay. I thought about another one thing. I heard about like result analysis errors also there. Like if it is continuously repeated errors, we will get that is not aware of end user training. So that kind of things also there. Now, that is one type of errors I heard about, but I'm not fully confident about that. That's what I'm asking.
Okay. Normally, there is
Like,
nothing that we do during this result analysis and all, because based on the configuration, it is just an execution process, month-end process. You just have to go to a transaction, give
yeah,
your
one
project
thing.
or give your plant, and then execute. If it is a result analysis of a production
Yeah,
order or
that's when I got
yeah,
it. Now I got it. Like, if it is an APP, in APPs, many times what will happen? People are doing already run the data, but they have some issues. They are not completely run it right. After that they are going to again run in new date, and that time they will get the errors. Many times end user will do that kind of mistakes, right? So
correct.
that is the what that is the they had good they had not have good training. That's what they're getting. That's kind of errors, right? What we have to call that kind of errors, sir? Because that is we are getting regularly.
Normally, what happens when you talk about month-end, there will be something called a month-end checklist.
Monthly
Okay,
checklist.
month-end
Okay.
checklist. What this month-end checklist contains is this month-end checklist is not common for all the clients. It depends from the client to client, because business process from client to client is different. Okay, based on the business process of your client, based on the processes, based on the modules that are implemented, we are supposed to prepare a month-end checklist. This month-end checklist should not be a random checklist.
Okay.
When I say
Yeah.
random checklist, I mean it has to be a sequential, and you are
Mm-hmm.
going to tell that step number 1 you are supposed to do this, step number 2 this activity, step number 3 this activity, this is the transaction, this is the purpose of it, this is the user manual for it. If
Okay.
your step number 1 is not completed, you are not supposed to go to step number 2, because 2 may have dependency on step number 1.
Hmm.
You may
Okay.
be able to execute step number 2, but step
Hmm.
number 1 is not completed, means step number 2 result is incorrect.
Okay.
Okay, and this checklist must be provided along with the user training and the user manual. If this is missing, yes, that is part of the consulting mistake. If this is given, then that is part of your end user mistake. We will tell that you will have to follow the user manual.
Yes.
If still
Yes.
not clear, they will have to raise a request for conducting the training session. That should not come from an end user, that should come from that user's manager,
Okay.
because training is not something that you will provide as and when they need.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sir, another thing like normally what we will say, we are involved in month-end activities, day-to-day activities, and year-end activities. That is all for end user activity. What is our functional consultant role in that exactly, and what we are going to support them? Like if they are stuck in that, we are going to help, or we have to we should involve in every month-end activities. What?
Normally, what we do is, if you're on the supporting side, this month-end activity basically comes after the go live of the project. Once the project is gone live, then it is
Yes.
called as your support. First one
Yes.
month or first 3 months, you call it as hypercare support, where
Yes.
implementation team provides the support. After that,
Yes.
you will call it as AMS.
Yes.
Right? Now, from the support point of view, once your month end is approaching, let's say today you are on 12th, maybe you will start sending a reminder email or the confirmation email to your business, not to the end user. To the business, when I say, you're sending an email to the different stakeholders. So hope
Okay.
your month end activities or the process related to month end is going fine. There are no pending issues which will stop your month end.
Okay.
You will send that email maybe on 25th or so, and then you will send another email on top of it, maybe on 28th or on 30th. So you will be sending a couple of emails on the same mail chain, asking them to report if they find any problem or if they face any issue there. Because tomorrow you are not supposed to receive an email from them, we are unable to complete the month end because of this problem.
Mm.
Right? So if you are in the consulting, if you are properly experienced, the way you approach is different. It is not that you are not receiving any email does not mean that everything is fine there.
Okay.
At the last minute, they might send an email because of this problem, you are not able to do this. They may simply tell, I have informed about this to Pico consultant last week, but till now I did not get any confirmation.
Mm.
They would not have sent any email. They would have sent you maybe given a one liner maybe on Teams or on a call. But
Mm.
after that, there may be no communication on it, no discussion on it. They will simply use that. They'll try to blame.
Okay.
So for all these to avoid, you have to send an email. Even if somebody is asking you these kind of a questions, the way you are answering explains them whether you've really worked on SAP or you're trained on SAP.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like we have to say we supported to them, right? That's
Yeah, yeah, we will support. Any issue related to month end, definitely we'll have to support.
yes, that's it. That means not we are going to do solve anything,
You are
right?
not going to do anything on the system which is related to data entry.
Okay.
Where to debit, where to credit, what account to take. It is purely client decision. You have nothing to control over that.
Yeah. Normally we
Now,
don't have access in production, right?
no, no, no,
In
no.
it.
Normally, what they do is they will ask us what to debit, what to credit.
Mm.
If we tell that, okay, you debit this account, credit this account, you cannot decide that, right? You do not know their business,
Yes.
right? Where they want to show that in their, reporting in P&L, balance sheet, TB, you are not aware. What number should reflect there? So you are
Mm.
not the right person to take that call. You have to tell, check with your business head, maybe your manager or product head, somebody, whoever it is.
Okay.
Then pass that entry. While passing that entry, if you get any errors, let me know.
Okay, sir.
So what amount to take, anything related to data entry. As a consultant, we are not supposed to take any decision. We are not supposed to recommend anything on the data entry, especially on month ends, year ends. Because they will simply tell this entry is posted as per the instructions given by the FICO consultant. So it will be a first mistake of the consultant to guide a user how to pass an entry. That is not the consultant job. It is the operations work. The client or the user will have to figure out where to take that cost or where to take that amount, what entry to pass, where to debit, where to credit, or just for the sake of completing the month end or year end, they will pass a dummy entry and the next month they will reverse it out.
Okay.
So
Sir,
these areas, go ahead.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah,
Ajay, may I know? Continue.
sir, I asked like result analysis. That is not result analysis. That is the root cause analysis. That is called like who are the individual.
RCA.
Yeah, RCA. That is the one of the support, right, sir. High
No, no,
priority
no,
issue.
no, no, no. RCA is not a support issue. RCA is something which you will give when something is escalated.
Something.
It's escalated, like issue is reported, but you are not able to resolve it on time. Because of that delay or because of this issue, I have huge business impact. Then I want to know why this issue is coming. So that is where you will do RCA, root cause analysis. Why the issue is coming, okay, and what is the reason for it, and what are the changes that you have done in the system to fix this issue, and going forward, how this issue is avoided. So if you are giving an RCA, means you are giving the complete investigation report on that particular problem. It's like a CBI report you are giving.
Okay. Like,
So that is
can you
not,
give any example for that, sir? Like, any kind of simple example for me.
let's say every month you are doing depreciation postings. Okay, assume that you are posting depreciation, but for some assets, your depreciation is charged to wrong cost centers, or in some assets, depreciation is not captured in any of the cost center. Okay, either cost center is missing in the depreciation entry or wrong cost center is updated. Because of which, at the end of the month, when you wanted to analyze your cost of depreciation, what is my overall depreciation, which department to receive what portion of my depreciation, basically my cost allocations. I am not able to do it because my report is not giving cost center for all the transactions, or some transactions are giving me incorrect cost center. So this may be due to incorrect master data maintenance. Some cost centers may be updated with cost center. Some asset master is updated with cost center. Some may not be updated with cost center. Also, in your configuration, maybe configuration is not set up in a way where if cost center is not given in the asset master, your asset cannot be created. The other point may be, if cost center is not there, depreciation will not be posted. System will throw an error that the depreciation is not posted because cost center is not there. So you may have to write an RCA stating that this issue is because of these 2 points, because those are the 2 reasons, right? Master data either not maintained in the master data is not updated with cost center, or at the configuration level there are no checkpoints, validations to verify this. Now you will tell that going forward, so to fix this we have put the validations in place, wherein while creating the asset, system will ask for cost center as a mandatory. If cost center is not updated, you will not be able to create the asset. First point, this configuration setup is completed. And the second point, for depreciation posting, system will not post the entry if cost center is not extracted or cost center is not available. And you will also mention that there are around 2000 assets or 3000 assets where cost center is not updated. You will give them that list. These are the assets where cost center is not mapped. Please give us the respective cost center so that we will update it. Post which, from the next month onwards, when you do the depreciation posting, when you do the cost allocations and all, you do not face these kind of a problem.
Okay.
It is kind of a one-pager presentation that you'll have to give to the client. This is given not from the consultant side, but from the manager side. So as a FICO consultant, you will give your inputs or you will update it and give it to your project manager or your team lead, and they will send it to the client, not to the end user.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Okay. Any other questions?
Mr. Ajay, what do you provide in this training?
Sorry?
What you provide in this training? This is a real-time training only.
Yes. You mean any material?
Yeah, that means the videos, you recorded videos you normally used to
Yes,
share.
you'll get the session recordings.
Okay.
Now we have done a session, so after this session, you'll get that recording and the Excel sheet that I'm updating while the session is going on.
Okay.
This Excel sheet you will receive, and the session recording you will receive.
Okay. So it's a project-based training. This complete.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Ajay,
Yeah. Yes, sir.
will you provide like a work support like that? Hello?
Work support I may not provide, but I'll assist you in your work. Not that I'll do your work, but I'll tell you what needs to be done to complete that issue. I'll give my inputs, but I'll not give my support.
Okay.
You mean the support normally you get from outside, right?
Yes.
That I'll not give.
Okay.
Because my training is not meant in that way. It's meant in such a way that you'll be able to handle independently where you do not come to that stage. You do not find that is needed or relevant for you.
Okay.
So you'll gain that confidence with me. There's no doubt about it.
And I need to talk with you one-on-one basis. Will it be possible?
Sure. Oh.
Mr. Ajay, good evening. Padmaja here. Yeah, today is the first class actually. So, like you were saying, from next week morning hours, first session. I think morning 7 to 9:30 or 1 hour, whatever it is. New batch is starting. So, access we'll be getting at that time, sir.
No. I'll give you access today evening.
Okay. So
I'm
can
just
we
back
attend
from
even?
my vacation. So I'll give you the
Okay.
access today. After the class, I'll just share you the details.
Okay, fine, sir. And like we can attend the evening session also, no? Or is there anything that
There's
we
no
have to?
restriction that you can attend any session that I take, anytime.
Okay.
There's no
Okay,
validity.
fine. Okay, right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Ajay, both are the same session or different topics, morning and evening session? I got
No,
confused.
morning it will be from the beginning, like from the accounting basics, company creation, company code creation, chart of account, fiscal year. And this will be exclusively the topics that are needed from your day-to-day work life if you become a consultant, and what is needed to clear an interview. This is basically for your interview preparation.
Okay.
Whatever we are starting from today does not require basic sessions. Even if you miss, doesn't matter, because I have not opened any SAP screen. I have not talked about anything in SAP. So in general, we'll try to understand the business process. Then only I'll open SAP.
Okay.
I'll not show anything on SAP directly.
Okay. Meaning that today
We'll
morning you started already the classes. Huh?
no. Morning I'll be starting from the next week because I'll have to plan my schedule accordingly and then plan.
Okay. Okay.
From next week it will be there in the morning.
In the morning. So that's the first session. Okay.
That will be the first session from the beginning.
From the beginning. Yes. That's
This
what
is
I
the
want.
first session for your interview preparation or for your real-time preparation.
Okay.
Okay.
Got
Because
it.
you may get confused when you see SAP screens. There's no point of opening SAP screen. I've not even logged into SAP.
Okay.
Right? I will log into SAP once I complete the full cycle on the Excel sheet. Once I write the accounting entries and all, that is when I'll open SAP to show to do this what is needed from SAP. Because for us to understand this, whatever we are writing on the Excel sheet takes a little time. This is something that we're talking in a different way. So till that time, we will manage in the Excel sheet. We'll try to get used to the business process, business terminologies. Once we are clear with it, we'll open SAP, because when you're an SAP, I don't want you to think what to do in SAP. You have to be clear with the transaction, your example. Then the focus should be only on SAP based on your requirement, based on your scenario. Because you can do anything in SAP, but before you do anything in SAP, you must know what to do. What is our requirement, what we are trying to achieve in SAP.
Yeah. Okay, got it.
Take this. I'll create the same supplier with the same name. I'll create one invoice. I'll post for the same amount. I'll exclude the tax because we have not done taxation. But when we do the taxation, I will recall the same document. I'll recall the same document when we do the taxation topic. I'll add the same entry again with the tax, so that it will be continuous, because we will be using the same company code, same setup throughout the sessions.
Sajay, I want
Okay.
to talk. Okay, Sajay, I want to talk to you personally. Can I talk to you later?
Yeah, fine. But call
Okay.
me on WhatsApp. Yeah.
WhatsApp call, because I'm living in Dubai, so WhatsApp call won't work actually. You know very well.
Okay, then we can have a call on IMO.
Okay, we'll talk on voting. Voting is available for you. I can talk to him.
Okay, fine.
Voting. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Just share with me your number so we can talk in voting.
Yeah. Fine. Okay.
Thank you, Ajay.
Okay. All right then. If no questions, so we'll connect at the same time tomorrow. Tomorrow it will be at 8 p.m.
The same
Thank
link,
you.
right?
Yeah. Sorry.
Ajay,
8
same
p.m. in the
link?
evening. Yeah. Same link for tomorrow.
Okay. Then I will connect with you on that.
Yeah. Okay. Fine.
Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Yeah. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Fine.
Bye, sir.